I was gonna do the deal. Is what when Ross put the MMG thing on the table.
Yeah. I got you.
That was just the terms and the way, you know, Ross set up the conversation to start in that building. It was a great opportunity. It was a great situation. I just had a concern with my team getting credit for breaking Nipsey Hussle. So I didn't necessarily want to take that from my team. You know what I'm saying? Everything he done said, he done done, every combo we had, every time I sent a verse, he executed it. So I got a lot of respect for Rose. So I'd have done it off just GP, but I got a team I committed to ahead of time.
Damn.
And I needed to make sure they got the credit for what they did. You know what I mean? That was the only reason. But outside of that, all the other deals, they lacked what the MMG offer included, because it was somebody that understood why Nipsey is valuable without a radio.
I'm saying Lauren introduced me to Puff.
Oh, got you.
I mean, I knew Puff, but it was more of a personal relationship after, you know, we was at Cassie's birthday.
Nip had no ego. So, you know what I'm saying? Like Nip came to me and said, I want you to mentor me. You know, I want to get into real estate. I want you to teach me all your, you know what I mean, like your business secrets. You know what I'm saying? I was like, whenever you got questions, pull up. And then on his last album, people do not know this. Somebody tried to jerk me, but I fixed it. I actually am one of the executive producers of Nipsey Hussle's last album.
Victory Lap.
Yeah.
So it turns out Nipsey Hussle's rejection of Rick Ross' Maybach music deal carried way more weight than people realized. And right before his tragic passing, Nipsey started exposing the truth. He wasn't just another rapper chasing a chain and a contract. Nipsey was out here building an empire brick by brick, and that same independence that made him a legend might be been the very move that shook the entire industry against him. When Rick Ross tried to lock him in with MMG, the papers were right there, and Nip still said no. People close to him swear that decision cost him big, maybe even everything. Because Nipsey wasn't waiting on no label to hand him success. He was grinding from nothing, hustling off the block, and reinvesting every dollar. He even sold off his Lincoln jewelry, scraped together whatever he had, and bought his own studio equipment just to create his sound. That's the type of sacrifice rappers brag about in lyrics. But Nipsey actually lived it. He wasn't just rhyming about hustle. Nipsey was the hustle.
It's like I said, my goal was to create a situation where I could walk into one of these majors and operate as a partner.
Right.
And even since my early stuff, I never really was just an artist. I always bought my equipment. From day one, I sold my Lincoln, sold my Rolex, sold my jewelry, left my dope spot, turned it into a studio, bought equipment. My brother matched me, my homeboy bought my Lincoln from me, brought me a trash bag full of cash, bought my rims, my Alpinas. I sold all the things I was functioning off of, took all my money, and my brother matched me, and we went to Sam Ash and we bought all the equipment when I was 19. When I was 18.
From the jump, Nip saw himself as more than an artist. He moved like a boss, like a CEO who already knew his value before the industry ever did. He built all money in with his own crew, grinding without shortcuts, putting in sweat equity at every single step. Nipsey was making it clear, you couldn't buy him out, and that's exactly what made him dangerous to the system. Those posters you saw on the streets, Nipsey paid for them out of pocket. Those spins you heard on the radio, Nip and his crew bought those slots themselves. He made it clear from day one, he wasn't out here begging labels for a handout or waiting on some executive to put him on. If a deal didn't come with respect and equal power, Nipsey didn't want it. He wasn't looking to be anyone's artist. He wanted to be a partner, and anything less was straight up disrespect. In his own words, Nip said he had to raise his value and build leverage until he could truly demand what he was worth. He played the long game, knowing that once his brand was undeniable, they'd have no choice but to come correct.
So, you know, as I was educated in music, that's what the production company does. You know, that's what the label do. I was paying for rent. I was a hustler. I wasn't thinking I was the executive. I was just like, I want to rap, I need a studio, I need equipment, I gotta. But we was making these moves already as a production company or as an executive or as a label to facilitate me as an artist. So the money was coming from my brother, from myself. The decisions was coming from my team, myself. The posters was being stapled up by us. You know, the radio promo, we was going up there and buying the radio spots. We was booking out the House of Blues. We was doing all the things that a label do. So once I got educated to the way that the deals get structured, it would be disrespectful for us to expect anything other than a partnership. Because we've been had sweat equity, we've been had money invested.
Yes, sir.
We've been operating as not only the creative but also the administrator. So it would be against the grain of reality to go into a situation.
And the labels? Def Jam, Capitol, even Atlantic. At different times, they all looked at Nipsey and passed. They didn't see the value. But instead of folding under the rejection, Nipsey doubled down on himself, proving his vision was bigger than their short-sightedness. Every move he made built more leverage until the same doors that shut on him had to open back up out of respect. Interview, 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 interview. But here's the thing. That kind of independence is dangerous in this game. The industry is built on control. They don't want bosses. They want puppets. Nipsey refused to play along. He wasn't just chasing rap dreams. He was rewriting the entire playbook. And in a business where rebellion equals threat, Nipsey's independence was already painting a target on his back. Then came the big moment. Rick Ross knocking on Nipsey's door with a Maybach Music Group offer. And let's be real, most rappers at that time would have jumped at it instantly. MMG was blazing hot. Ross had industry respect. And one signature under that logo meant an instant cosign, instant shine, and instant credibility. But Nipsey wasn't built like most rappers. He sat down with Ross, chopped it up, and kept it real. Nip told him straight up. He respected Ross as a hustler, respected how he moved, and even said everything Ross promised, he always delivered. Every verse Ross sent over, Nip saw him execute. There was no lack of respect here, just deeper thinking.
Atlantic, you already know they tradition. They make household names.
Yeah,
man. And they've been successful doing that for years.
But being so successful on your own.
Right.
That's why when I saw this announcement, I was like, man.
Yeah.
Like Nip didn't just walk in there.
Nah, we've been trying to land on the terms that we landed on for some years.
Yeah.
So it just was about me raising my leverage and my profile to where I could really justify what I was asking for.
Yeah.
And you know, I respect that. Like if I come in here and make a request, you gotta, and they, you know, the answer is like, you ain't worth that shit. You gotta go.
Yeah, gotta go get
it. It's possible, but you gotta work for
Sometimes
that.
you gotta show and tell people your worth too.
dope.
Did Atlantic Pack, they passed on you or earlier, right?
Yeah. I said Drake passed, Def Jam, Capitol, Atlantic too. Thought that I'd be dead of doing life because what I rap is true. So I was just talking about all the labels that I walked in them buildings and played music before I, you know, like I said, had value. And some of them felt it, some of them didn't get it, but I just was referencing taking those meetings and how that.
And Ross wasn't blind either. He saw Nipsey's value before the labels did. He didn't need Nip to have some watered-down radio hit to recognize the potential. Ross looked at him and saw a street king in the making, someone who could stand on his own 2 feet. On paper, the deal looked perfect. But Nipsey turned it down, not because he doubted Ross, but because his loyalty was different. Nipsey had a team that built him from the ground up, a crew that believed in him when the majors laughed. He wasn't about to turn his back on the people who helped him become Nipsey Hussle just to chase a quick industry boost. Nipsey wasn't about to let a big label swoop in and take credit for what his own people built. In his own words, I didn't want to take that from my team. And that, right there, was the only reason he turned down the MMG deal. Loyalty meant more than a contract.
You know what I'm saying? Everything he done said, he done done. Every combo we had, every time I sent a verse, he executed it. So I got a lot of respect for Rose. So I'd have done it off just.
But think about it. Most rappers would have signed just for the chain, the press runs, the photo ops next to Rick Ross. Nipsey flipped the script. He doubled down on independence, betting on his own squad instead of chasing the industry's validation. That made him one of the rarest breeds in hip-hop. Loyalty over fame, principle over paper. But let's be real. Ross didn't take that rejection lightly. Some say he felt disrespected. Nipsey admired Ross, no doubt. But he wouldn't fold. And since Ross was tight with Diddy, word on the street is the story didn't end there. In fact, some believe Ross's frustration set off a chain reaction once Puff got involved. And that's when things started to get messy. Whispers began circulating that Nipsey's rejection of Ross might be played a much bigger role in what unfolded later. See, everything shifted the moment Lauren London introduced Nipsey to Diddy. At first, people thought it was a blessing. Nip getting in the same rooms as a mogul like Puff? That sounded like elevation. But with time, the narrative started to change. Folks began looking at that introduction very differently, wondering if it opened the wrong doors and exposed Nipsey to something far darker than he realized. Word on the street is that Lauren London's introduction of Nipsey to Diddy was the beginning of the end. Jaguar Wright even said it outright. Lauren introduced Nipsey to Diddy, and Nipsey himself confirmed the connection on The Breakfast Club. That's when fans started asking the tough questions.
I was gonna do the deal. Is what when Ross put the MMG thing on the table.
Yeah, I got you.
That was just the terms and the way, Ross set up the conversation to start in that building. It was a great opportunity. It was a great situation. I just had a concern with my team getting credit for breaking Nipsey Hussle. So I didn't necessarily want to take that from my team.
Damn.
I got a team I committed to ahead of time.
Damn.
And I needed to make sure they got the credit for what they did. You know what I mean? That was the only.
Was Lauren truly loyal to Nip, or was she playing both sides? The timeline started looking shaky. For example, she admitted she attended a death seminar before Nipsey was killed, like she was preparing for loss before it even happened. To a lot of people, that didn't feel like coincidence. It felt like foreshadowing.
No, I'm saying Lauren introduced me to Puff.
Oh, got you.
I mean, I knew Puff, but it was more of a personal relationship after, we was at Cassie's birthday.
And then came the part that made fans furious. When Nipsey passed, it was Diddy who stepped up in front of the cameras to console Lauren. He told her, "Look, boo, you have shown everybody what it looks like to hold a man down and to love him. Now show them what it looks like when it all crumbles. That's your responsibility." Fans didn't miss a beat. Boo, the exact same nickname Nipsey used for her. To many, that wasn't just odd, it was flat out disrespectful. Viewers started connecting dots, asking why Puff was using Nip's personal term of endearment, and if that meant there were deeper ties between Diddy and Lauren all along. Old photos started resurfacing, and they showed Lauren London and Diddy looking way too comfortable, while Nipsey stood in the background looking like a third wheel in his own relationship. That alone had fans buzzing. But then came the twist. Diddy actually played a role in Victory Lap, Nipsey's dream project, the album that finally pushed him into the mainstream spotlight. According to Gene Deal, Nipsey personally asked Diddy to help him shape Victory Lap the way Puff shaped Biggie's life after death. But here's the chilling part. That classic Biggie album dropped right after his death. Fans couldn't ignore the eerie parallel, calling Nipsey's decision a big mistake.
Nip had no ego. So, you know what I'm saying? Like Nip came to me and said, "I want you to mentor me. I want to get into real estate. I want you to teach me all your, your business secrets." You know what I'm saying? I was like, whenever you got questions, pull up. And then on his last album, people do not know this. Somebody tried to jerk me, but I fixed it. I actually am one of the executive producers of Nipsey Hussle's last album.
Victory Lap.
Yeah.
People say letting Puff in that deep was the setup. Instead of keeping Nip locked in the studio, Puff allegedly had him around the mansion, inside his orbit, and under his influence. To fans, it started looking less like mentorship and more like manipulation. And just when you thought it couldn't get messier, this is where Rick Ross slides back into the story. Remember, Ross and Puff were close. So when Nipsey turned down that Maybach music deal, some believe Ross never let it go. Combine Ross's bruised ego with Puff's controlling reputation, and people speculate it created the perfect storm, a recipe for betrayal that Nipsey never saw coming. Some folks believe Rick Ross and Diddy allegedly linked up behind the scenes, and here it is the part nobody in the industry wants to admit. Nipsey wasn't just another rapper, he was a rising threat. Too smart, too independent, too revolutionary. He didn't need gatekeepers to bless him because he was building his empire brick by brick, showing the hood you could own your masters, run your business, and still win big. But that's exactly what scared the machine. The industry doesn't like kings. They want pawns. And Nipsey, he refused to move like a pawn. He was moving like a boss in a game designed for puppets. So yes, Eric Holder pulled the trigger, and he's serving 60 years. But on the streets, people whisper he was never the true mastermind, just the fall guy. A pawn moved into place while the real chess player sat in the shadows, pulling the strings and making sure Nipsey never got to reach that next level of power.
Now, you taking a spiritual person who's asking for something. He said, I wanted that same feel as life after death. That same feel was that Biggie got and he went on to sell about 10 million albums or 10 million copies. I was saying, you gotta watch what you say to demons, because it just might come true.
One fan even wrote online, Nip was so locked in on maintaining his persona, he didn't even see it coming. To a lot of people, that comment hit hard, because Nipsey was focused on building something bigger than rap, while others might have been focused on making sure that dream never reached the top. One fan wrote, if Nipsey had just signed that deal, he'd still be alive. But Nip wanted to be what he was destined to be. And that meant turning it down and holding it down for his crew. I respect that. Another user chimed in. The man admitted he walked away from MMG when he was still relatively unknown. That deal meant the world, but he put his loyalty first because he didn't want his team to get overlooked. That's character right there. And that's the heart of the debate. Did Nipsey's loyalty and independence put the target on his back? Was the industry punishing him for refusing to bow down? And what about Lauren? Was she really playing both sides, knowingly or not? And let us not forget the whispers about Puff. Was Diddy really pulling strings behind the scenes this whole time, making sure Nip never rose to the level that scared the gatekeepers? This story doesn't end with Eric Holder. The deeper you look, the more suspicious it all feels. Nipsey didn't just chase fame, he chased power, and power always comes with enemies. The question is, who were the real players making moves behind the curtain? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, because trust me, this one is far from over.
Yeah,
and if you're all in for raw truths
was
and bold
just the
takes,
terms and
smash
the
that
way,
like
you know,
button,
Ross
subscribe, and click the
set
next
up
video popping up on your
conversation
screen
start
right
in
now.
that building.